Sir, I remember in almost every session in this house we have been having a discussion on inflation and price rise. This time we had initiated that such a discussion should take place under a rule which entails voting with the express purpose of using that vote as a pressure on the government to take effective steps. On the need for taking effective steps, sir, I need not reiterate, but when this UPA 2 government had assumed office, the Honorable President of India, in her joint address to both the houses, had outlined what the government would do in the first 100 days. The Honorable President had said this government is firmly committed to maintaining high growth with low inflation, particularly in relation to prices of essential agricultural and industrial commodities. Subsequently, in this budget session, as is the normal practice when the Honorable President addresses both the houses, she said in para 7 that there has been an unhappy pressure on the prices of food grains and food products. Higher prices were inevitable given the shortfall in domestic production and prevailing high prices of rice, cereals, edible oils globally. She further said that the central government continues to accord the highest importance to ensuring relief to the common man and food prices. Then it was said that a core group consisting of senior ministers of the union government and some chief ministers has been constituted to examine a wide range of related policy measures. After these two references by the President of India telling the country and the Parliament what her government intends to do as far as this higher prices and inflation is concerned. The very fact that we are today discussing this under a special provision of a unanimous resolution that we have all agreed together is itself a reprimand on this government that it has not been able to contain this price rise. The very fact that this discussion is going on is something that has been established, but we are all here today to urge upon the government to take effective measures to contain prices. The government has to recognize the fact it has failed in containing the price rise, and now the effective measures need to be taken. That is a fact that has been established when this debate has started. We have heard this earlier, sir, that there is a global phenomenon on price rise and there is a mismatch between demand and supply. We agree that there is a mismatch between supply and demand. What has been the production of our food grains and pulses during the last year? I will give you the figures which the Honorable Minister has given in reply to a question in the other house. From these figures, it is evidently clear that our food grain production has fallen drastically to 8.6 crore tons from 9.3 crore tons some 3-4 years back. Now, like the Congress spokesperson and my colleague who initiated this discussion from the ruling benches had said, we can attribute this drastic fall in the production of food grains and pulses to a deficit in the monsoon. But are we going to depend only on the monsoons even 60 years after independence? What has the government done in order to invest in agriculture? In the last 10 years, the average rate of investment in agriculture is less than 2% of our GDP. If this is the rate of investment in agriculture, how are you actually going to increase your supply? I am talking of a supply demand mismatch, and the problem does not get solved unless you are able to tackle how you are going to improve on the supply side. That has been woefully inadequate, and that is a point that we need to understand. That is why we hear about the extension of the green revolution to the rest of the country. We hear about high yielding varieties, but many of the issues that had been raised by the Swaminathan Commission are still not being implemented, and I will come to some of the points subsequently. But in this background, the government must immediately assure this House and the country that in the coming days and in the subsequent budgets, proper earmarking of public investment in agriculture, particularly expanding the irrigation so that we are not dependent upon monsoons, will be undertaken. This will be a perennial problem that we cannot resolve if we do not do that. Secondly, sir, we have heard discussions on the quantum of food grains that are lying with the government. The economic survey presented this year before the budget reforms the country that, as against the budgetary norm of 200 lakh tons of rice and wheat, the government in its godowns then had nearly 475 lakh tons of rice and wheat. After that, we have had the reports which were discussed in this morning of at least 3 million tons of wheat rotting because there is no space in the central godowns. We have heard descriptions of the photographs and visuals shown on TV channels on how this wheat is rotting. We have heard the Honorable Supreme Court chiding the government, saying that if you cannot store your grains properly, why do not you give it to the hungry? In that situation, why is this food grain not being distributed? We heard our honorable colleague from the ruling benches saying that the states are not off taking or taking the food grains. Why are the states not taking the food grains? Sir, let me give you an example of Kerala. They were given food grains earlier. It has been cut by about 90% of the grains that were supplied to the state of Kerala. They were given at the rate of the BPL prices. Once you cut nearly 90,000 tons and say that you take them at the market price, which works out at rupees 17, which state is going to take from the center at the market price of rupees 17 and distribute it through the public distribution system.